All right, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. This is Friday afternoon. It's the Hostos Student Leadership Academy Friday Ambassador Workshop Series. Today is April 1st, and it's not April Fool's Day. We will have no jokes, although we had a whole bunch of jokes right before everything started today. And today is my son's birthday, so I'm very excited. But I want to introduce you to my good friend who's been coming and joining us both in person and virtually for the last 14 years. We met in the January of 2008 when he started making presentations for the Hostos Student Leadership Academy. That earned him an honorary membership from members in 2009. He got his pin. And we celebrated him in one of our ceremonies, our passing the torch, which you guys should all look forward to. Yeah, and that's a special pen we gave him. So we love Arel Moodie. He is the most dynamic speaker that we have here in our community of speakers. He is world renowned. He has been to the White House. He's been celebrated by Barack Obama when he was president. He makes the rounds. Right before we came on air, he was talking about that he's speaking every day now. And you can follow him in social media and see all the extraordinary things that he does and all the extraordinary people that he meets and all of the talks that he gives. So he's bringing something new to our midst this year for our workshop this spring, and I'm excited about it. He knows that I love him. I appreciate him. We have a strong connection and a great bond. He has been a great mentor to me in terms of recruitment of other speakers, and he's been a great supporter of the work that all of you do. And he stays in touch with the members of our academy even after they graduate, and they have great relationships. And I get to watch that through the Facebook messaging and stuff. And people just come to me and say, I reached out to Arel and he gave me advice. So I introduce you to my good friend Arel Moodie, and let's get excited for a really powerful workshop.
Thank you so much, Jason. I'm unbelievably excited to be back with my Hostess family as an honorary member. This means so much to me. But this is my promise to every single one of you. What if I told you that adults, you and I, actually pass through predictable stages of development? What if I told you what that means is you could actually understand why people make the choices they make, why they do the things that they do, and you can unlock that to have an incredibly more influential life, to understand yourself more deeply. And out of curiosity, I'm just curious, do me a favor in the chat, yes, if you've ever had this experience, how many people have ever had the experience where someone did something and for the life of you, you could not understand why in the heck they would make that decision and do that thing? Give me a yes in the chat if you're like, why would you do that? It makes no sense. So I'm seeing some yeses come in. Thank you, Ashanti. Thank you, Kobe. Thank you, Elvira. Thank you, Abigail. What I promise you is after today, you are going to understand why people make the choices they make. Why do they make the meaning that they make? Why do they have the fears that they have? But this is the most important thing that I'm super excited about. Every single one of you as leaders will be able to unlock not only the potential of others, but the potential within yourself with the knowledge of today. So let's jump in, because I believe that your organization is only as strong as the people who make it. Whether it's Hostess Leadership Academy, whether it is any group that you're a part of, literally it is only as strong as the people who make it. So therefore, developing people is one of, if not the most important role that any of you can have as a leader. But how do we do it? I promise you, you're going to hear things today you have never heard in your life. I promise you that. And it's all backed by incredible research that's been going on for the last 60 years with over tens of thousands of data points. You're going to learn how to do exactly this, and you're going to be able to do it way more efficiently than almost anyone else, because most people don't know about this. But because you're involved with Hostess, because you're a student ambassador, and because Jason cares about you so much, you are going to get that today. So with that said, let's start with a little game. I'm going to play a game here. I'm going to play a video in a moment, okay? In the video, there's going to be a team wearing black t-shirt, team wearing white t-shirt. They're going to pass the ball around. All I want you to do is count how many times the players in white pass the ball, okay? So count how many times the players in white pass the ball. Here we go. Okay, real quick, give me your guesses. How many times did a player in white? Make your guesses. Don't worry if you get it right. Don't worry if you get it wrong. It says nothing. I'm just curious to see what we saw. How many times? Okay, so we've seen 18, 16, 1. That's definitely not true, Abigail, unless you just came on right at the end. 14, 15. Elvira saw the gorilla. That's what I'm talking about. Now, out of curiosity, who besides Elvira saw the gorilla? Give me a yes in the chat if you saw it. Give me a no in the chat if you didn't see it, okay? So give me a yes in the chat. Did you see the gorilla? Give me a no in the chat if you didn't see it, okay? Right, okay, great. Now, here's what's fascinating. About 50% of people will see the gorilla, and many of you probably have heard or seen this psychological study before, so you knew the gorilla was coming, okay? If you didn't see it, I'll show you. The correct answer is 16. Okay, but the gorilla is really where it's at, but let's go a little bit deeper. So most people who've heard about this or seen a video, usually about half of the people miss it. So we had about 50% miss it, so it's very, very normal. But did you see the curtain change color and a player on the black team leave the game? Yes or no? Do me a favor, in the chat, give me a yes. Did you see the curtain change color or a person on the black team leave the game? Did you see that? So I'm seeing a whole bunch of no's, okay? Let's rewind and break this down so you can see exactly what happened, because this is a huge point that's gonna open up what we're talking about today, okay? So the curtain is red. Here comes the gorilla. There goes the person in black. And now the curtain has changed to a gold-orange color. Now, here's what's fascinating. That happened in front of every single one of our eyes. Every single one of us saw it. However, we didn't process it. The reason we didn't process it is because we were unaware of it. I'm willing to bet every single one of you, if I played that video again, not only would you see the gorilla, not only would you see the curtain change, you would also see the player on the black team leave. Why? Simply because you are aware it was happening. Right now, there are tons of things happening that most people don't see in human dynamics. So my promise is that you're going to be able to step back after this presentation and understand exactly why people make the decisions that they make. And you're going to understand exactly what you can do about it. This is going to be the big domino that will forever shift your perspective with how you understand others and how you understand yourself. I am wildly excited about sharing this with you. I have been teaching this to professionals all across the country, and I'm going to tell you this is the first time ever I am teaching this information to college students. I have specifically kept this in the domain of professional development, but because I know how mature, because I know how grounded, because I know the types of students that come to Hostos, I decided to teach you this because I want to give you a leg up on the competition. I want to give you the opportunity to know things. And I promise you, it's going to be wild. In the same way you can't unsee all the things in that video, you're not going to be able to unsee what you learned today. But the most important thing is you can use it. And that's what gets really exciting. So for those of you who have no idea who I am, no, I am not a guy who looks just like Kanye West only. That's only part of who I am. In addition to that, I've been a professional speaker. I've been on TV shows. I've done speaking engagements all across this country, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual. I've been guests on really, really cool shows. I've spoken in 48 states, 5 countries, spoken to over 750,000 people. My work and my story have been featured in the New York Times, USA Today, Forbes, Black Enterprise, Essence. I've been on TV shows like The Doctors, I've written for cool places. I've given TEDx talks that have hundreds of thousands of views. The president of the States, Obama, acknowledged me. Inc. magazine called me one of the top entrepreneurs in the world. And I've got to do some really, really cool things that I'm very, 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 very proud of. And what it all boils down to, everything that I've cared about has been understanding, how do people think? How do people act? How do they make the decisions that they make so that they can make the best decisions? And I've been teaching it. I've been writing about it. I've been speaking about it for a very, very long time. And out of everything I've ever learned, nothing has impacted me more than this research paper right here. Now, let me read it to you because it's going to be very fascinating. It is called 9 Levels of Increasing Embrace and Ego Development, a Full Spectrum Theory of Vertical Growth and Meaning Making, Post-Autonomous Ego Development by Dr. Suzanne Cook-Greuter. Out of curiosity, who besides me have no idea what I just read? Okay, so here's what's fascinating. When I first came across this report, I didn't understand it. It came highly, highly recommended to me, but the language was like really complex and really academic. So first time I tried to read it, I really couldn't read it. And by the way, anyone who likes data in research papers, this is a 100-page research paper. It is not light, it's thick, it's heavy, it's serious, it's very, very research. But the more I started learning and the more I started sticking with it, I actually started breaking down and understanding what it was talking about. My mind was blown. It started explaining that adults, humans, you and I, actually go through these predictable stages of development. And each stage, we have different characteristic traits, different fears, different skills, different things we bring to the table, different things that drive us. And here's the wildest thing. Every single adult will go through these stages in the exact same predictable way. This is game-changing if you understand what this means. What this means is it's not like a personality test where some people have this personality and some people have this personality. No, everyone goes through these stages in a specific order. Now, we're going to dive into what all this means. But once I was able to truly understand this, I became obsessed with the idea of taking this information that's based on 60 years of research with researchers like Jane Lovinger, Eric Erickson, and tons of other incredible people that have been doing these studies for over 60 years, as I mentioned, to over tens of thousands of data points all across the world. And whether you are, regardless of your race, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of where you were born, regardless of the language you speak, what they have been able to map is predictably the stages we will go through. And I said, how come everyone doesn't know about this? So I would go to a bunch of people and say, how come you don't, do you know about this? No. I would go to my friends who I know about everything. Do you know about this? No. And what I discovered is that the people who typically know about this are the highest levels of academics. A lot of this research comes out of Harvard and Boston College and Yale, and in high, very small academic chambers, they know about this research. And I said, this isn't something just a few people should know about. This is life-changing. Everyone should know about this. So that's what I'm on a mission to do, is to take this incredibly complex stuff and make it simple. Now, I want to be very clear. I am giving you very, very, very simplistic ways of understanding, because I think that's what's valuable. If anyone is like, I want to know way more, I want to know all the details, I want to know the full spectrum of it, I highly encourage you to check out this paper and read it. I've actually been able to study directly with Dr. Suzanne Cook-Greuter. I've been able to study with her organization, the Vertical Development Academy, which has been amazing. If you want to know more about them, look them up. They're incredible. I've read pretty much every single piece of documentation that I can find that's public. And I've worked directly with these people to educate myself as much as I possibly can so I can simplify it and bring it to folks like you. So you're about to get 60 years of human data in this session. So if you're ready to get started, and you ready to get this information, do me a favor, let me get a let's go in the chat. It's the only way I can know if you're here with me, through the chat. So give me a let's go. And it's like, I'll know you are with me. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Kobe. I see you, Jason. Thank you, Tahina. Thank you, Leighton, Elvira, Abi, Salamata. Hey, is that that Sally?
That's Sally.
Sally! I was like, wait a minute. That's the full name, but that's Sally. Sally!
Oh, they have my full name there? Okay. Yeah,
That's
me.
why I was like, wait a minute. That looks like Sally. Girl,
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I mean, you know, you always bring me joy when you on my sessions, girl.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
So this is gonna be a good one. I'm so glad you're with us. I'm so glad you're with us. Oh my goodness, Sally in the house. All right, so let me explain real quick, why I'm so fascinated about this. For those who don't know, I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, New York, an area called Canarsie. That top floor there is my building, and that window right there is my bedroom window. That's where I grew up. And I didn't grow up with lots of things. I did grow up with a lot of love. You know, I had a mom and a dad and a brother who cared about me very much. But my environment was very difficult. I saw people get killed. I saw my friends go to jail. And I kept wondering, why is it that some people seem to have the Midas touch? Why do some people seem to just have things work so well for them and others don't? And I felt like for so long, I didn't. I felt like I had to just work so much harder to get what everyone else had access to. And what I became super fascinated with was this idea of, what is it that people who know and get things and succeed versus people who don't, what is the difference? What makes them work? And I've learned an incredible amount of ideas and modalities. I've written about lots of these things and published on lots of these things. What you're going to learn now is the most exciting thing that I've ever come across that has impacted me more deeply. This is called the Glenwood Housing Projects. So if you know anything about Canarsie, this is the Glenwood Housing. It's by South Shore High School in Brooklyn. If anybody knows their Brooklyn geography. So let's jump into it, because one of the reasons why I care so much about this is I believe Hostos is such a representation of so many different types of cultures, people from all over the place. And the one thing that we all have in common is that we're all hungry to be better. The one thing that I know about the people who choose to go to Hostos, to choose to get involved with student leadership, is that you have this incredible hunger that you want your life to be the absolute best version of it that you can. And you may have dealt with some challenges, some tribulations, some ups and downs, but what's been constant for you is, I never want to give up on my goals. So it's one of the reasons I care so much, and why I come back, and I've told Jason this, and I'll keep telling him every single time, if you keep inviting me back, I'm going to keep coming back, because I see the spirit of this culture and it means so much to me, because I grew up in so many similar places as so many of you, so I get it. So I'm very fortunate to do the work and have the things that I have now, for sure. But I'll never ever forget what's important to me, and you all are important to me. So let's understand what this is. Let's stop talking about it and let's get into it. So how do we understand what adult development theory is? Let's break it down. Out of curiosity, has anyone ever heard of child development before? Child development theory. Child development theory states that children pass through predictable stages of development as children. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of yeses. A lot of us have heard of this before, right? Now, for those of you who haven't heard about it, I'll help you understand it. A child who is about 6 months old does not have something called object permanence. So what that means is, if you put your hands in front of your face, they think you've disappeared. That's why you can play peekaboo with a child who's 6 months old. Why? Because they don't have object permanence at that stage of development. So when you do this and then you do this, they're like, whoa, you just left the planet and came back. That's so cool. But when they get to a certain age, they develop object permanence, and you can't play peekaboo with them. I mean, Jason, could you imagine trying to play peekaboo with your 5-year-old? She look at you like you were like, what are you doing, weirdo? Like, could you imagine trying to do peekaboo with a 16-year-old? Like, you would get arrested. That's called stranger danger, okay? So we are aware that children pass through these predictable stages of development. Now, what researchers thought for a very long time is that once you hit a certain age, you stop developing. And you spent the rest of your life trying to get the most out of what you were able to develop during your childhood. That's why there's always been such a huge emphasis on educations of kids, because the belief was, once you hit a certain age, you have a certain set of tools, and then you spend the rest of your life trying to get the most out of your tools. What has been discovered is that there's something called adult development theory, that adults also pass through predictable stages of development, except they're a little bit different. The stages are a little bit different. Let me explain the difference. In child development theory, they're like stairs. So once you clear one, you just move to the next one. In adult development theory, it's like the nesting dolls. Has anyone ever seen these nesting dolls before? So it's like one doll inside of another, inside of another. So these stages, you don't actually pass through them and you forget them. They become a part of you. It's said differently. We learn how to crawl first, then we learn how to walk. After we learn how to walk, we learn how to run. But if we learn how to run, it doesn't mean we forgot our abilities to walk or we don't know how to crawl anymore. So it's not like once you learn the new skill, you don't do. No, what happens is you develop the new skill, and depending upon the situation you're in, you can either walk or crawl. That's the same thing here. So these stages, they actually grow outside of us, but they never really leave us. That's a very important distinction. I want you to get this. So even if, as I describe these stages, you relate to a later stage versus an earlier one, it's not like they're not in you, like they're all a part of us. So it's really, really fascinating. Oh, I see Jermaine Santos in the house. What up, bro? I just saw you in the chat. What up, dude? Good to see you. Oh, man, when people come back, it brings me so much joy. What up, what up? All right, German in the house. What up, what up? All right, so
Hello,
what's up, brother? Always a pleasure, never a chore with you, man. Thank you for being here. All right, out of curiosity, has anyone ever heard about generations before? Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, has anyone ever heard about this? Right? Yeah, okay. So what research has showed is that based on when you were born, you have different characteristic traits. So you've seen a lot of this in the media, right? Like, oh, Gen Z loves TikTok and Generation X loves, Facebook, and, baby boomers love record players and millennials love Backstreet Boys. I don't know, right? So it's like they say based on the different age you're in, you have these different characteristic traits, things you like, things you don't like, things like that. So what I want you to think about is generation is about age, when you were born. Adult development is about stage. Said differently, generation is about how old you are. Adult development and stages are about how mature you are. And I'll prove this to you. Out of curiosity, has anyone ever met someone who's like in their 40s or 50s, but they kind of still act immature like they're in junior high school? Give me a yes in the chat if you've met someone like that. So they're older, but they act super immature. Okay, I'm seeing a whole bunch of yeses. We've dealt with these people. And out of curiosity, have you ever met someone that's younger, but they're way more mature for their age? They're like an old soul. Like you meet someone and they're like in their 20s, but they kind of like track a little bit. There's a little bit more to them. That's what we're talking about here. That's what I want you to get. So your stage of development has absolutely nothing to do with how old you are. So it's not like your age determines your stage of development, but the level that you mature will absolutely affect each one of the stages. And I'm going to break down what these stages are. Now, there are 4 stages we're going to cover today that are most important to you. The self-centric stage, or self-protective opportunist, the group-centric stage, or the team player stage, as I call it, the skill-centric stage, or expert, and the self-authoring stage, or achiever. There are 4 stages we're going to cover. Why are we going to cover these 4 stages? Because about 80 to 85% of the US population will fall within one of these 4 stages, meaning the large majority of people you meet will be in one of these conventional stages. So you might be asking me, Arel, how many stages are there and why are we only covering 4? Well, there's technically 9 stages altogether. However, those stages we're not going to cover for a few reasons. Number one, there's a lot less people in what's called post-conventional. These are called conventional stages. So number one, in the post-conventional, there's a lot less people. So for example, Gandhi is like in post-conventional. Martin Luther King Jr., so they exist, there's just less of them. And then there's people in the pre-conventional stage, which is before this, but these are individuals who have like adult developmental disabilities. So they are dependent upon someone else for their care. So yes, they are adults, but because they have different developmental challenges, they're kind of dependent upon someone else. So I'm not incorporating that group and the later group because I want you to focus on what's most useful and beneficial for you. So that's what we're going to do. So let's jump in. Okay. When you know these 4 stages, you will now have a predictable roadmap for how adults develop. You will be able to see the traps of each stage now and how to avoid them along the way. I am giving you pretty much a life cheat code if you want to get the simplistic form of what you're dealing with now and what you're going to deal with later. So when it happens, it doesn't feel so chaotic. There's 2 kinds of growth, okay? There's 2 kinds of growth that we need to be aware of, okay? One is called horizontal growth. This is very important. Let me explain it to you. We are all aware of horizontal growth. Horizontal growth is a type of growth that changes what we do. This kind of growth develops new skills and new knowledge. This helps you like become faster, better, more efficient, learn how to do more time management. This is about like 99% of all of the professional developments that you will go to fall into this particular category. How do you get better at something? There is a second kind of growth though, that doesn't get enough attention, which is super interesting, which is called vertical growth. This is the type of growth that changes who we are. This kind of growth develops our mindsets, our perspectives, and our value systems. And I will prove it to you. True or not true, do you fundamentally see the world differently today than you did 5 years ago or 10 years ago? Think about what you care about, what you value, what's important to you, what makes you upset, what doesn't make you upset, what's a big deal, what's not a big deal. If I took you from 5 or 10 years ago and I asked you what's the most important thing, you would have a completely different value system, perspective, and mindset today than you did that, right? We can all relate to that, right? I'm seeing a bunch of the truths come in. That's vertical growth. Because I bet you there was a problem you could not handle 5 years ago. That's child's play to you today. Why? Because you vertically grew. So when we look at these 4 stages, this is a very important thing. So I mentioned these are the predictable stages that we live in. However, this is important. I want you all to catch this. You can horizontally grow within one stage for your whole life. The difference between child development and adult development is in child development, if you just get older, you're going to develop and build new skills. In adult development, you can stay in one stage your whole life. This is a super big, important thing because as I go through these stages, if you start actually resonating with 1 or 2, you might ask yourself, well, if I want to grow, I now know what I need to do to become a more mature growth version of myself. But let this be understood. You can stay in a stage your whole life. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't want any of you to think you must grow vertically and move from one stage to the next. You don't have to. People can stay and be wildly happy in one stage. The only difference is, in my opinion, I dropped some water on me. The only difference is with the knowledge of these stages, you now get to decide, do you want to stay where you are or do you want to grow? Previously, it would happen on its own. Nature would take its course and either force you to stay within your stage or force you to grow. Now you have the choice, and that's where power comes from. When you have options and you have choices, you can decide what's important to you and what you do. So you can spend your whole life in, say, the group-centric team player stage, or you can move from one stage to the next. But this is what's important. You cannot skip stages. You could be like, oh, don't tell me I can't do something, Arel. I'm going to do it. No, they've done research, literally tens of thousands of data points over 60 years. This is the stages that we go through predictably. So instead of trying to game the system and jump it, you actually should learn what they are so you can use them to your best abilities. Now, what's very important to note is that vertical growth up these stages depends upon one's openness to change and life circumstances. I cannot make you grow if you don't want to grow. So if you have an openness to growth, you'll grow. If you don't have an openness to grow, there's a good chance you'll stay in your stage. Also, someone who is lower on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is also harder to vertically grow. Harder to vertically grow. So if anyone's familiar, just out of curiosity, does anyone know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is? Because I'm referencing it. Some people know about it. Some people don't know about it. I'll give a very, very quick overview on what it is. If you don't know what it is, I'll explain what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. Okay, seeing some yeses, right? Well, if you know about it, this will be review. If you don't know about it, this will be a very quick intro, okay? So we have these different levels of needs. Now, if we don't have basic things met, like food, water, clothing, shelter, it's hard to focus on like things like, how do I become the best version of myself? Well, you're not focused on that. You're not focused on how do I give back to my community? No, what you're focused on is how do I get food? How do I eat? So the lower we are on this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so the less needs we have met, the harder it is to vertically grow. So the more needs that we have met, the easier it is to vertically grow. So it's a very important thing, especially because for many of us, if we grow up in low income situations, or you come from a third world country and you deal with a lot of poverty, you might look around and say, oh, well, why don't these people vertically grow? It's because their environment makes it difficult. That's why it's so important to be involved in things like Hostos Community College, because it's an environment that will help you have a fertile soil to grow. So whether you come to my session, thank you for being here, or you show up next week, there's going to be a speaker named Marissa Flores. She's speaking at 3:30 next week. She's part of a great group called Event Ninjas. Definitely come check her out, because every single event that you're a part of, every single time you do something with the Hostess Leadership Academy, you're putting yourself in fertile soil to help you vertically grow, because you don't have to worry about lots of things here, because everyone here is about something, and it's super important, okay? So with no further ado, would anyone be interested in understanding all of these stages, what their characteristics are, what their fears are, what their goals are, what things they buy, what are the core motivators, how do they listen, how do they take action? If you want to know that, why don't you give me a yes in the chat? Someone says, sure, why not? Carmen, I want you to be excited about this, Carmen. I don't want you to be leisurely about this. Sure, I'm eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I guess I got nothing else to do right now. I want you to be like, nah, I want this, bro. This is great information. Kanye West, someone said I look like if Kanye West and Shamar Moore had a baby. So I want you to be that excited. Well, that's not really a great reference. That actually doesn't fit into that point right there. We're just going to keep it moving. Okay, yeah, no, I do. Now you can't unsee it. Okay, let's move on to the first stage. So the first stage we're going to focus on is called the self-centric or self-protective opportunist stage. Now, what I'm going to do is explain all of the characteristic traits of this particular stage of development. What I want you to do is, as I'm explaining this personality type, I want you to think, does this sound like anyone you know? And here's what's fascinating. Typically, when I explain each stage, you can almost see someone you know to the T. And you're gonna be like, how do you know this person? Because these stages of development are everywhere. I also want to be very clear to say humans are very complex. So I don't want anyone to think that I am pigeonholing people by doing this. I'm giving you a new level of insight and understanding so that you can understand yourself and others. So let's jump into the characteristic traits of the self-centric stage. The way that this person sees the world is what's called a zero-sum game, meaning in this world, either I win, you lose, or you win, I lose, okay? What that means is the whole world is about winning or losing. Have you ever met someone who says something, there's winners in this world and there's losers in this world, and there's just nothing you can do about that? So what happens at this stage is that it becomes me versus the world. That's how the world is perceived. The world is not perceived as this collaborative, beautiful place. The world is perceived as it's me against everyone. And my job is to win. And at this stage, I don't like losing. I want to get as much as I possibly can. If you got something, I want to take it. I'm going to get as much as I possibly can. Now, here's what's fascinating. As I am developing this desire and this skill set to win, to lose, I develop what's called a sense of two selves. I create my inner self, which is my true, authentic, real self. And then I have my external self, which is the self that I use to navigate through the world. Said differently, my external, I can say and do things that don't match what I really believe because it helps me win or get things from the world, and I'm okay with that. I'll prove it to you. Do me a favor. Has anyone ever had a situation like this? Okay. Here is you, and here is someone, and you're having a conversation with them. A third person comes in, and all three of you are having a fantastic conversation. That third person leaves, and then the person that you're speaking to goes, I hate that person. I can't stand them. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. You was just talking to them like they was your best friend, and all of a sudden you hate them. Has anyone ever had an experience like that before? That is an example of someone who says, my internal self hates this person, but my external self knows I need to be nice to this person. So I'm seeing people say, oh, fake friends, fake friends. That could be a huge characteristic trait that those people are actually in this stage of development. Because at this stage, I'll say what I need to say to get what I need from you because it helps me win. But I won't let you into my actual true beliefs, because the belief system is, if I actually let you know what I truly think and feel, I might not be able to get the things that I want out of life. So I keep it a secret. So for anyone who goes, oh my gosh, I know fake friends, that's where this stage is done, because in later stages, it's not the same thing. So let's go more deeper. I develop a sense of internal self and external self.
Hello. Daniel.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Jason. Right. So I developed this internal self and external self because at this stage, I don't yet believe I can share who I really am with the world. So what happens is I get very interested in learning what you value, what's important to you, what you care about, not genuinely because I'm 100% interested in it, because I know that the more I know about you, the more I can use. However, at this stage of development, I also never want to become the weakest link. Meaning, I don't want you to know information about me, because my belief at this stage is the more information you know about me, the more ammo you have to use against me. I can't let people know I'm dealing with this, or I'm challenged with this, or I'm afraid of this. I can't let people know I'm in trouble, because if I let them know, they'll have ammo. For example, you know lots of people, and you've experienced this. This could be you, who knows, excuse me, where you get really suspicious when people start asking you questions. It makes you very uncomfortable. Why you want to know that? How many, oh my gosh, all right, keep it 100. How many people, when you were filling out your FAFSA form to go to college, had to struggle with your parents to get basic information because they didn't want to give it to you, because they didn't trust what people were going to do with that information? Why they need, oh, ammo means ammunition. Like you have a tool to use against them. But lots of kids, especially in low income, they can't get their parents to give them basic information, like how much money do you have and what's your social security number, because I don't trust you're going to do something with it. That's a huge part of this stage. My belief is, if I give you my information, whatever it is, basic stuff, you can use it against me, because I don't want to be the weakest link. Now, if I get upset at this stage, the way that I deal with that being upset is one of two ways. The first way is I try to dominate you, meaning I will physically use my body, my mouth, my language, the way I move to try to intimidate you to back down. Have you ever dealt with someone that kind of flew off the handle a little bit more quickly than you thought? Like they started yelling and screaming and getting in your face about something that you thought wasn't that big of a deal. And you was kind of like, chill, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, go ahead, you got it. And it's like, why did they respond that way? Why did they yell? Why did they get physically close? Why did they do that? Because the way that you get what you want out of the world at this stage is I have to physically dominate people. Now, here's what's fascinating. That's more of a masculine energy. It has nothing to do with male or female. It's just more of an aggressive energy. The other way that I deal with the world is if I start feeling like there's like a threat or something, I totally disengage. I ghost you. I disappear. Have you ever had a situation where someone just stopped returning your texts, stopped returning your calls, and you're not sure why? Or you email them, you call them, they don't respond? Because what happened is something showed up as a threat, and the best way that they can deal with threats is just to completely disengage from them, completely disappear. So I either will dominate or I will disappear. It's how I self-protect. Self-protection is dominant at this stage. It is very hard for me to truly care about others' needs if it's not about me. Now, what's fascinating at this particular stage of development is that I care about me. So if I go to your thing, it's not really because I'm trying to support you or make the community better. It's all about what's in it for me. With them. You ever heard that phrase? What's in it for me? At this stage, what's in it for me reigns supreme. And what they think about in terms of time is now. Here's what's fascinating. Okay, we're going to get into that. How do you overcome it? Stuff like that. We're getting into this. Okay, so at this stage, okay, what's in it for me, Francine? What's in it for me is how do I benefit from it? How do I get something from it? Oh, okay. Y'all ever throw an event and the first question people ask is there going to be food? Then proceed, right? Like they'll go because they want food, not because they want to come to your event. They'll go because like, oh, I'm going to get a job. Like, I don't care about furthering my career. Will you give me money? Will you give me $50 if I show up? Will you not pay me if I show up? Well, if you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to. Like, it's that, okay? But this is also important. In terms of time frame, I care about the here and now. So if you tell me, like at this stage, if I go, oh my gosh, make this decision, it's going to make yourself better in 5 years. At this stage, I can't even think 5 years into the future. All I care about is will it help me right now? Will it help me achieve something I want right now? So what happens is I don't really develop. I don't focus on saving money. Oh my gosh, saving money is ridiculous at this stage. Why am I going to save money? Because I need to take care of my stuff now. I need to buy stuff now. I need to live life now. Tomorrow's not promised. I got to live life now. So if you're talking to someone at this stage and you're trying to convince them why this decision is going to help them in 2 years, it means nothing to them. It's like you're out of your mind. I only care about like getting to Friday. Now, what drives someone? There's a core motivator at this particular stage of development. There's a core driver. The core driver that literally drives every single decision that someone makes at this stage is two things: getting and defending. Getting and defending. What can I get? How can I benefit? How can I grow? How can I? Or you won't steal from me. You won't step on my sneakers. You won't punk me. You won't raise your voice at me. You're not going to do anything to hurt me. I will defend. And by the way, I got this question, so I want to explain this. When I talk about me, that also extends to my family, my immediate family only. So like if you have a child, your child is seen as an extension of you, not as an own individual being. So like you'll defend your child. You'll defend like people close in your family because you don't actually see them as a separate person. You just see them as an extension of yourself. So by default, you defend them as an extension of defending yourself. So people are very defensive at this stage. They easily get defended. If they think you're trying to take advantage of them, that will set them off like crazy. So there are certain people that if you try to give them suggestions or feedback, they see that as an attack, not as feedback, and they immediately defend. If you've ever worked with someone or tried to give someone feedback and they got wildly defensive about that feedback, there's a good indication that in that moment, they're probably operating from this particular stage. However, you build a skill set at this stage, a very important skill set. The skill set that you build at this stage is the ability to sniff out opportunities. Here's what's fascinating about this. In this stage, your ability to find opportunities is super high. Now, if you use it correctly, it's an amazing skill to build at this stage. If you use it poorly, it can be very devastating. I'm going to give you an example just because I grew up in an environment where people use this skill very poorly. Does anyone know someone, give me a yes in the chat, know someone that's really good at gaming the system? You know someone who's good at gaming the system? So like they don't really need like say public assistance, but they know if I can keep my bank account under this amount of money, then I can stay on public assistance. So I can work at least 5 hours at that job. But if I work 6 hours, I'll make too much money. So I can't work that much. Or if they don't pay me off the books, I'm not going to work at it because it's not going to allow me to get. So instead of growing, I learned how to game the system. Oh, okay. Out of curiosity, opportunity. This might be someone on the call, so I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just trying to illustrate it. Okay. Does anyone know someone that like every other month, they're in a new MLM or direct marketing company? It's like, yo, I got you, man. I got this tea that's going to make you lose weight. And then like the next month, they're like, no, you got to join my energy program. Oh, I'm going to show you how to save money on your energy bill. Oh, don't worry about that. And it's like, what happens is every new opportunity is exciting to them. So they jump from opportunity to opportunity because they're very opportunity driven. Okay. However, if you use this correctly and develop this skill correctly, you look at opportunities differently. One of the ways you can look at opportunities going, you know what? I really want to make a lot of money when I graduate. So where do I see the biggest growth? Oh my goodness. I'm realizing that like computer programming there's going to be tons of needs for that. So therefore, I should probably start studying computer programming now. So by the time I graduate, I can make $80,000, $90,000 straight out of college. Great. I want to take advantage of that opportunity. So if you use it correctly, it's an incredible skill. But if you don't develop it, you can just use it to basically game the system, get what you want out of it, but not really grow in life. The other skill that you build is you learn to care about winning at this stage. The way you look at winning, how much you want to win at the quantity that you want to win is good, because for life to be amazing, you do need to win. So your skill set and desire of winning gets built and foundationally built at this stage. And you also learn how to defend yourself. So there's some of y'all like, look, I don't live in the projects no more, but I grew up in the projects, right? And I live in a very nice area now. It's a beautiful neighborhood. I walk around, people do the courtesy wave. If you've never been in a nice neighborhood before, there's a beautiful thing people do, which is called the courtesy wave. You don't do this in like the hood. So in the hood, everyone says, don't bother nobody, keep your head down. In nice neighborhoods, every time you pass by somebody, you wave at them. It's called I call it the courtesy wave, right? It's real nice. However, I could go Brooklyn real quick if I need to. Like, don't let the suburban version of me fool nobody. If I need to protect my kids or myself, I will do what I need to do. I hope I never am in a position where I need to ever use my hands or fight ever again. But I also know that I've learned how to defend myself and I can step up if I need to. You build that at this particular stage of development. There is a fear though. There is a fear at this stage that is rampant. So these are the skills and the drivers and the characteristics, but there's a huge fear. The fear that happens at this stage is the fear of being dominated by other people. It is your biggest fear. These are the people who are afraid of getting scammed. They're afraid of like, I don't want to give you my information because you might take it. I don't want to invest money because I'm afraid. I don't want to take risks because I'm afraid they're going to take advantage of me. So anything that involves getting scammed, anything that involves being dominated, it's the biggest fear. Making me look like a fool, making me look like a punk, it's my biggest fear. Like if you want to crush someone, like dupe them, like fool them, make them feel like they're not smart and dominate them, that will be their biggest fear. So they're constantly trying to fight against this. They never want to seem like they're not the smartest person. They never want to seem like people can take advantage of them. They're less trusting at times, simply because the more they trust, the more they're afraid that they might get taken advantage of. Now, how someone in the self-protective opportunist stage takes action. At this stage, someone takes action by getting things in the name of an outcome. Remember, I mentioned what's in it for me. That's where this stage is. So if you're interacting with someone and you start noticing, wow, they're fitting a lot of the characteristics you said. If you want them to come to an event, they're going to come for the free pizza, not for the education. If you want them to come to something, you got to show them what their individual benefit is, right? It's very important because that's what I care about. I'll do things in the name of getting an outcome for me. So if you say, oh, make this decision, it'll better the community, they don't care about the community. If you say, hey, do this decision, it'll help Ukraine, they're like, I don't care about Ukraine. I got to take care of myself. I can't be doing nothing to help Ukraine right now. I got to help me. So they're less interested unless helping Ukraine improves my status. So if I could be a part of something and it makes me look cool, then I'll do it. But just like donating for the sake of donating and nobody knows about it, I'm not going to do that. So it's important to understand that each stage has different skills, strengths, and things they develop. So as a recap, the self-centric stage, zero-sum game, win-lose, me against the world. I develop a sense of two selves. I hide my weaknesses. I either dominate or withdraw. I sniff out opportunities. I don't want to be dominated. I'll do things in name of an outcome. I learn how to defend myself at this stage, and I'm driven by getting and defending. Now, I'm curious. As I described this stage in the chat, write me if you were like, you were describing someone I know very well. How many people, when I describe this, you could see this showing up in someone in your life, whether it was a friend, a family member, and you were like, yes, I saw that. So give me a me if you saw that. So I'm saying the me's, seeing some people that say yes, right? Yeah, exactly. Describing the past me, because yes, this is a part of all of us. All of us go through this stage. This is really important for us to get. No one escapes life not going through this stage at some point, right? Now, the question is, do you stay in this stage? That's the real question. There are people that will live their whole life in this one stage. You've got to ask yourself, well, how do I grow? This is a question that I get. How do I grow? How do I get out of, like, let's say you, oh my gosh, Arel, I'm going to keep it 100. You described me. I was described. I noticed this about myself. And you might say, what if I don't want to stay in this stage? Now, if you want to stay in this stage, stay in it. Like, it's your choice to do so, of course. The way that we grow is simply this. We have to realize the limitations this stage has been bringing us. It is the only way. It's not the only way. I shouldn't say only. That's not the right word. But one of the best ways, in my opinion, to grow is you have to realize I've been doing it this way and I'm not getting the results that I want. This is my favorite question to ask anyone in this stage. Oh, you do it this way, you do it this way, you do it this way. How's that been working out for you? Look at your life. Look around. How happy are you? How content are you? How successful are you? How much do you love life? Now, if the person is, I love it, it's doing great, then there's no incentive to change. It really isn't. But if you go, yeah, you know what? If I can be realistic, I've been doing it this way. And when I look at the clothes I wear, the people I hang out with, where I live, what I do, how I feel about myself, I don't like it. I keep saying only, one of the most powerful ways to grow is to become well aware that the way that you've been doing something in one particular stage no longer serves you. Now, it probably served you at one time. It helped you at a period of time. But at a certain point, if it's time to let go, it's time to start moving into the next stage, which is called the group-centric stage. After you're in the self-centric stage, the next opportunity for growth is the group-centric stage. So if you say, Arel, I want to grow out of the self-centric stage, I want you to pay attention to how I describe the group-centric stage, because this is your next growth opportunity. So here are the characteristic traits of this stage. By the way, out of curiosity, before we go on, do me a favor in the chat, give me a yes if you felt like just that alone was like, if I could stop the presentation right now if I wanted to, and you'd say, yes, that was valuable. I was able to learn more about others, learn more about myself, put language on it that I didn't have before. Give me a yes in the chat if you feel like this was valuable already, okay? Yeah, some people saying, say myself, we just getting started, baby. We just getting started. I'm so excited. I'm seeing all these yeses. It makes me so happy because I really want you to get this. What's the next stage? The next stage is group-centric, okay? So when I say group-centric, what I mean, German, is that I need to be a part of a group. It's also called team player. That's what I call it. My identity up until this point has been myself and myself alone. I'm a one-man wolf pack, self-made. I do everything by myself. Group-centric means I need to be a part of something. I need to realize that being alone is something, right? So for example, like we got people over here, Harley Davidson people. Notice how they dress. Notice their facial hair. Notice the clothes they wear. There's a very particular vibe of someone who's into bikes, motorcycles. On the right, I've got like corporate, like Wall Street type people. Do you notice that the vibe on the right is very different than the vibe on the left? Do you get that vibe? It's very different. Why is it different? Because the regulations, the rules, the way that you act, the way that you don't act is completely different if you're in corporate America at Wall Street versus if you're at a Harley Davidson biker rally. Now, you can find your group in lots of different places. You can find it in religion. You can find it in your ethnic group. You can find it in politics. You can find it in social clubs. You can find it in leadership. Like you can find your group in hostess leadership. So you can find your group in lots of ways. You can do it in hobbies, but it's important that you feel a sense of belonging. For any of you that are saying to yourselves, I'm alone. I don't feel like you've got to see what it feels like to be a part of something. That's one of the reasons why every time I talk, you'll hear me talk about why it's so valuable and important to be a part of the Hostess Student Leadership Ambassador Program. Because if you do want to feel a sense of belonging, I encourage you to feel that sense of belonging with people who will get you, understand you. And that's what you get here. Now, at this stage, you get very interested in this idea of us versus them. Us versus them. Here's what's fascinating. In the self-centric stage, it was me versus the world. When I become part of a group, my identity becomes part of the group. So it becomes us versus them. This is a very key, important distinction. So for example, if you're a Republican, then your them is Democrats, liberal, conservative, believer, non-believer, right? So what happens at this group is that your identity becomes part of the group. So one of the things you have to be aware of is that if someone attacks your group, they attacked you. So for example, let's say you are very strong in your Christian belief, right? You're like a hardcore Christian, you love Christianity, you go to church every Sunday. If someone makes fun of a Christian you don't even know, and they attack a church you don't even know, it's like if you attack them, you attack me. That's what happens at this stage. Your identity becomes part of the group. So you become very intrigued and interested in understanding what are the rules of the group. What do we do? What do we don't do? Now, for me, in my group-centric stage, Arel became connected to entrepreneurs and to my religious orientation. I happen to be Jewish, so my Judaism became a big part of my identity. Those were the groups that I aligned with. So I was everything entrepreneurship, everything entrepreneurial, everything entrepreneur. I don't want to ever get a job. There are people who get jobs and there's people like us who start businesses, right? So that's the thing that I did. So you become interested in what do we do and what do we not do? Like, think about it. For example, let's say religion, right? Because that's just an easy one and lots of people are a part of that. You start learning, on Sundays, you got to see me at church because it's important for people in my group to see me following the rules of the group. So if like you're Muslim and you don't eat pork, it's important that people don't see you eating a rib sandwich, even if you eat rib sandwiches. I know, and I would never point them out. I know lots of people who are Muslim and who are Jewish, and in these faiths, you don't eat pork. They would never eat pork outside, but they'll eat it in their house because they're like, I can't let anyone see me doing it. So if there's ever an experience like that, that's where that comes from as part of this stage, because I don't want my group to see me violating our social norms, right? Yeah, I mean, it could be whatever you want it to be, right? It could be a roast pork sandwich, paneer, I don't know what that tastes like, but I'm sure it's delicious. So what drives someone at this stage? At the group-centric or team player stage, we get driven by a sense of belonging. The desire to feel like I'm a part of something bigger than myself, it comes from this stage. So it's important to have a tribe, to have people that get you and connect with you. And if you don't have that, life feels very meaningless. it doesn't feel the same as good as it should be. So you're driven by a sense of not just like making money and doing stuff. Like, yeah, that stuff's important. Of course it is, but you want to be a part of something bigger than just yourself. You want to feel connected. And again, I cannot stress this enough. I encourage you to be connected to the Hostos Student Leadership Academy. There are going to be people here who are just going to get you because the people in this group are about something. They want to be about something. And if you want to feel a sense of belonging, look, people can get a sense of belonging from being in a gang. People can get a sense of belonging from being like around really bad people who hurt people, but they feel like they're a part of something. If you actually look at lots of young people who get involved in gang culture, one of the number one reasons they get involved with gang culture is to feel like a sense of belonging, a sense of family. So that's how big of a driver it is. I'll commit crimes. I'll hurt people. I'll potentially get killed or hurt myself or go to jail just so I can feel that sense of belonging. So knowing that that's a part of who we are and there's nothing we can do about it, it's definitely true, Kim, right? Like it's such a big part of us. Choose to belong to a group that will push you forward versus push you down. So what skill do you build at this stage? At this stage, you build the skill set of being the glue that holds us all together. At this stage, individuals who have this skill, they're the glue, man. Like if you need an organization to stay together, you're the person organizing, you know, if there's ever arguments or fights, you stop the fights because you're like, we're a team. We don't fight. We don't argue. You invite people to things. It's really important that not only you belong, but when you truly own this stage, it's important that other people belong. You care about making sure other people feel taken care of. You care about making sure people feel like they're not left out. You care about it deeply. That is such an important skill. And you build that care for others and making them feel like they belong at this stage of development. But there is a fear. Oh, it's a big fear. It's a catastrophic fear. And that fear is getting ostracized. There's some cultures that are so group-centric, a lot of tribal cultures, that the worst punishment that they do is they kick someone out of the tribe. It's a huge fear. Now, I'm going to show you how this can show up in lots of interesting ways. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. My tribe that I didn't realize was my tribe was like inner city project Brooklyn living. When I started like making more money and advancing, I had this fear that was persistent that people were going to say I sold out. That people were going to say, oh, Arel, you ain't from the hood. You ain't in the hood no more. You out in them white neighborhoods. Or like there was this fear that I was not going to be owned by the culture. That like hip hop culture, hood culture, whatever you want to call it, like they would say like I turned my back on them. So there were so many times I actually sabotaged my own success because I did not want people to think that I wasn't just like them or I didn't understand what it felt like to financially struggle. I wanted to be like, no, I get it too. So I went through this incredible period of time and I didn't know this until I learned this information. I could look back. I saw how much I self-sabotaged myself when I started getting a little bit of success because I didn't want to remove myself from my people, from my culture, right? So there's a certain like element you have to be aware that if you feel like you get ostracized or pushed out from your group, it's going to feel like death. It's going to feel like death. So it's a big fear. So I don't ever want my group to think that I'm better than them, that I'm leaving them. And there's people that will stay in horrible situations just to show that they're down, just to show that they haven't changed, just to show that they're still the same person they used to be. That comes from this particular stage. Well, how does a team player take action? How do you get someone who's group-centric to take action? People will do things at this stage in the name of the group's betterment. So let's say, I'm just going to use Jason because I'm looking at him, right? So let's say Jason was in this stage and he was doing an event, okay? He might come up to me and say, Arel, I need you to show up to this event. I'm going to give you $15 to show up. If I'm not in the self-centric stage, I don't care about the $15. It doesn't motivate me. But if I'm in this stage and Jason says, Arel, we need you there. Our group needs you there. There's no one that can facilitate the meeting like you can. And if we don't have you doing it, the whole organization is going to crumble. We need you there. Can you please be there? I will be there. If the team needs me, I'll be there. I don't even necessarily care so much about my own personal benefit and personal gain. I care about the group doing well. So I will be there because I want the group to be better. But if I'm talking to someone who's in the group-centric stage, that team player, the same way I talk to someone in that self-centric stage, the message won't land. And what happens is people don't know about this information. So they talk to everyone the same way, and they wonder why certain messages work and certain messages don't. So let's recap the group-centric stage. Team player, I need to find a tribe to belong and be a part of something. I want to follow the rules of my group and my organization, okay? I have an us versus them mentality. My group identity is my self's identity. I am the culture glue that holds organization groups together. I have a fear of being ostracized, okay? A fear of being ostracized. I will do things to better the group, to belong, and I will do things in the name of the group. This is super, super important, okay? Now, here's what's fascinating. You can stay in the group-centric stage your whole life and be good. But after a while, if you start saying, I'm following all the rules, I'm doing everything that I was told to do, and yet I'm still not as happy as I want to be. I'm still not getting what I thought I would get out of life. Well, then it might be time for you to move into the next stage. Now, this is where it's important for me to make a distinction, okay? This is big, okay? I really want to make sure I get this. When you are moving from one stage to the next, that period of time feels like death. And you've experienced this, I'm sure, because you are literally letting a past version of yourself die. It's like metaphorically happening, not physically happening. Now, I'll prove it to you. And Jason, I'm going to ask you, Sally, I'll ask you, because you're a little bit more seasoned in life, right? You're not like you're 21 years old. You got a little bit of life experience. When you look back at past versions of yourself, Jason, Sally, you can answer this in the chat if you'd like. Is there a part of you that looks at that past version of you almost like it's a completely different person? Like what that person valued, what they care about, who they are, and who I am now, it's like two separate people. And not just Sally and Jason, anyone can answer this. Does anyone relate to that idea? Looking at a past version of yourself as if it's a completely different person than who you are now? What that means is, if you can relate to that, Abigail and Carmen and Kim, what that means is you actually had to go through a mourning period where you had to let go of who you were. And do you know what that feels like? Not all the time, not always, but it can feel like depression. It can feel like sadness. It can feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't relate to the hood no more. People might kick me out, like that version of me that used to wear jerseys and wear Timbs and that kind of stuff. Like that's not really who I am anymore. And then you start feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm changing. I'm losing myself. People are going to ostracize me. Oh my gosh, like I don't feel good. It feels like death. And in actuality, it kind of is. It's a metaphorical death. Because you have to let go of the version of yourself who you've been to grow into the next stage. And there's a position of transition. It's called a growth edge in our terminology, where you're growing from one stage to the next, and you've got like 1 foot in one stage and 1 foot in the next stage. But if any of you, and this is super important, as I describe these stages, if you start really identifying with one stage over another, if you notice yourself sad and you don't know why, if you notice yourself like life's not giving you the same joy it once was, it could be, it doesn't guarantee that it 100% is, but it could be it's time for you to grow. It could be it's time for you to move from whatever stage you're in into the next one. Now, what's exciting to me about this is without this knowledge, you could be in a period of time where you're sad, depressed, anxious ridden and not know why, and you'll think there's something wrong with you. But with this knowledge, now you'll go, it's time for me to grow. That's what it's about. And now it's not just theoretical growth. You know exactly where you need to grow. Does that make sense? So if I'm in the group-centric stage, oh snap, I can move to the skill-centric stage. And now I know exactly what I need to do to get there. If I'm in the self-centric stage and I've been doing everything me, and I'm not happy, I'm not getting what I want out of life. I feel sad, unhappy, and I don't know what. It's time to go to the group-centric stage. And I promise you, when you do, life will become alive for you again. Everything you've been missing, you will find. And each stage has different pros and different cons. And I want to say this as we move into the next two stages. This is very important. Growing into a higher stage does not guarantee more happiness in life. It doesn't. What it guarantees is more fulfillment. And it's different. Happiness, it's not like you're not going to deal with sadness and challenges if you move into a new stage. It doesn't mean you don't deal with those things. It's just your ability to deal with them are much better. The example we like to give is like if you're on a ladder. So imagine a ladder is pushed up against a building, okay? If you're lower on the ladder, you don't have a good view. Does that make sense? You can't see that much. If I go higher up on the ladder, I've got a great view. I can see everything. But what's also true, the higher you up on the ladder, the higher the fall, the harder the fall. The lower you are on the ladder, the lower the fall. So the lower you, the earlier you are, the fall isn't so bad. The higher you up, the more you can see, but also when you fall, it's a much more difficult fall. That's a part of it, okay? It doesn't come with more happiness, it comes with more fulfillment. That's the distinction, Abigail. So if you're feeling like there's a loss or a lack and you grow, you're gonna feel more fulfilled because you're fulfilling your urges and your needs and your desires and you know how to. But happiness is totally different. It's totally, totally different. You can be in a later stage of development and be a miserable person. You just have a better view and you understand things better, that's all. But with this knowledge, here's what's fascinating. All right, I'm gonna explain skill-centric. If I forget, someone remind me. I wanna give you a very personal example. So if I move to the achiever stage, the fourth one, without giving you a personal example, just someone say, hey, Arel, you forgot, because it's not part of the presentation, but I wanna share it because y'all are special to me, of how this showed up in my life, okay? But let's say you're in the group-centric stage. You're playing by the rules, doing everything you're supposed to. But you're not getting what you want out of life. You're feeling limited. It's time to move. So let's talk about the skill-centric stage. It's a very interesting stage. The first thing that's really interesting about this stage, at this stage, you have a desire to be special. Not like normal special. Like, I don't want to just be on the basketball team. I want to be an all-star. It's not enough for me to be a student leadership ambassador, right? It's not enough for me to be a part of Hostos. I got to be the president. I got to be the vice president. I've got to be the best student leader Jason's ever had. It's a very different way you play the game, right? And Jason, you've seen these people, right? Who it's not enough for them to be involved. They've got to be the best. That's part of the skill-centric. It's this weird desire, and it's actually a little conflicting. And people usually don't know how to put words to it, but I'll give you the language. So you can use this when it happens to you, if it does. At the exact same time, you want to be a part of the group, but you also don't want to be a part of the group. I'll give you an example, okay? So I'm an entrepreneur, right? But I don't want to be seen like every entrepreneur, not like those guys who just getting started. I'm like seasoned, I'm good. No, I'm not just a student, I'm an honor roll student. Do you guys see the distinction? Do me a favor, give me a yes or no, and I can go deeper into this. I want to make sure you get it. This is really clear. It's not good enough to just be a part of the group. I've got to excel and stand out. So what I'm saying is I need to be a part of the group so that I can be separate from it. It's very complex. Do you get it? I need to be a part of it, but I've got to separate myself because I don't want to be seen like everyone else. So yes, I'm a student leader, but I'm one of the best. That's important. That comes from the stage and nothing wrong with it, but you got to be aware of it because there's a conflict that can show up of like, I only want to be so the other thing that comes with this is that I don't want to be just around everyone. I want to be around the best of the best. Right? Yeah, like the tribal chief. Exactly. I don't want to be just in the tribe. I want to be a tribal chief. So then my peer group becomes the highest level within this group. This is big. It's not good enough to be in the group, but I still need a tribe, but I want my tribe to be the highest level. I also, at this stage, become a perfectionist. At this stage, everything is never good enough. You do an event, it's a good event, everyone tells you how great it is, and all you can focus on is what could have been better. I could have done this better, I could have did this better. So you become really big with comparing, analyzing, and trying to get better. Self-centric and group-centric are totally different than this stage. It's totally different. However, the distinction is self-centric is about me, group-centric is about a group, skill-centric is about me again. So you do this back and forth dance. It goes self to group, and you're gonna see us go back to the group thinking in the achiever stage in a little bit. But I move between caring about myself and caring about the group as I grow through these stages, right? So it's not like it's a combination, it's just the next stage. So I want things to be good. Now, what happens is, as I develop my skill, this is important, your skill becomes you. This is big. I need you to get this. Your skill no longer becomes something you do. It becomes who you are. I'll prove it to you. How many of you have ever had a job where if you got fired, you couldn't care less? Maybe you worked at maybe it was a minimum wage job. And it's like, if you fired me, I couldn't care less. I don't really love this job. Like, I'm out tomorrow if I get a better option, right? There are some jobs though, and not everyone's had this experience, where your job is a part of who you are. Now, there are some people that if you removed their job, they wouldn't know who they were anymore. They would lose a sense of like, who am I if I'm not in this role? Who am I if I don't have this? So your identity becomes connected to your skill. So this is the personal story I wanted to tell you. I want to make sure I didn't forget it, okay? So I developed this online course, okay? I developed this online course, and someone basically told me that it wasn't a good course. Now, I've had hundreds of people tell me how much they loved it. This one person goes, it was just like everyone else's, it wasn't that good, so I'm not going to pay you anymore. They were on like a payment plan, and they decided to stop paying me. I was livid. I was like, I can't believe they're not going to finish paying me. I put them on a payment plan to help them out. And now they went through all my material, got my material, and not even paying me for it. And then I started getting so angry, and I was up at night, and I'm getting into this battle via email with this person because I can't believe that they're doing it. And then I'm thinking about it, and then I'm huffing and I'm puffing and I'm frustrated about it. And then what I realized was my skill is me. So when this person said my course wasn't good, this thing I created, I didn't hear it as, oh, my course isn't good. I heard it as, I'm not good enough. So if you criticize my work, you criticize me as a person at this particular stage. Very, very fascinating, right? I see you, Sally. Now, at this stage, you become very critical of other people, because as you develop your skill and get really, really good at your skill, you get very critical of others because they're not as good as you are. And you can't remember what it's like to not be good at what you do because you've been good at it. So you can become very critical. One of the ways you become critical is you use the phrase yes, but a lot. This language pattern shows up for this person. Yes, you could do that, but have you thought about this, 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 and that? Yes, I hear everything you're saying, but here's why I don't think it'll work. So at the expert stage, or the skill-centric stage, that's the stage we're in right now, I need to show how smart I am, and I need to poke holes in other people's ideas because this is how I show how smart I am. And that's important to me. So yeah, it's definitely a sign of not listening for sure. At this stage, it's less about me listening. Oh, actually, I'll share this with you. It's a really good point, Junior. At this stage, I don't listen to everyone. I only listen to people who I deem experts like me or above me. It's very fascinating. You've worked with people like this. Some of you could be this person. If you're going to give me feedback, I won't listen to you if I think I'm better than you at this particular role. But if I think you're my equal or better, then I will take feedback from you, because I don't trust you if you're not good at your skill. So what is my core drive at this stage? What drives me is comparing and perfecting. At this stage, you constantly will compare yourself to others. How do you measure up to other people? How far along are you in life compared to other people? Are they good at this or better than you at this? And how do I perfect my craft and get better at the thing I do? So what skill set do I build at this stage? At this stage, I build the skill set of becoming very good at something. I stand out. It's a very important skill. Society wouldn't exist without people who are experts. We need people who are great at leadership or marketing or programming or finances. Like, without experts, the world doesn't move. So the skill that you build at this stage is becoming really, really good at what you do. So it's a very important stage, but you have a fear. German, do you have a question about it? If you have a specific question, let me know. Yeah.
Yes, Arel, I do. I've experienced almost the same certain situations as you have. For example, the housing projects, the ghetto neighborhood, and to me, I kind of enjoy that lifestyle because I've enjoyed helping young people, not just through education or any other resources, but yeah. I've enjoyed. I've had that passion into helping young people. Trying to resolve the situations within those neighborhoods. That's great as well. Yeah. But some of them told me to learn to move on to the next stage.
Well, you have to want to. You have to want to. Like, German, you have to want to. They could tell you you have to move on, but if you don't want to, you're not gonna. But if you start going, yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I'm a big fish in a small pond. If that starts like eating at you, then it's time to move on. But if you're like, no, I like it here, I like doing it, then there's no need to move on. If you're happy and fulfilled, don't let other people dictate your happiness and fulfillment. You see what I'm saying? So you'll only vertically grow if you have the desire to. And typically we only have the desire to grow if we're unhappy with our current circumstances, some tragic event happens and we're forced to, or we go, for the greater good, for me to become the best version of myself, I can't be who I was. It's time for me to step into this new role. If one of those three things don't happen, like, someone can nag you. Does anyone have like a family member that goes, you should do this and you should do that, and you don't? It's because they want you to do something that's important to them, but it's not important to you. And growth never happens that way. Maybe it does. I don't want to say never. That's a strong word. It could happen that way, but I don't believe it does. So what is the fear at the skill-centric stage? Hopefully I answered your question, German. What is the fear at this stage? Your fear is being just like everyone else. Your fear is being cookie cutter. Your fear is that you're never going to be as good at your skill as other people are. You're never going to figure out how to make money the way these people do. You're never going to figure out how to be the best lawyer. You're never going to figure out how to get the top of your game. It's a scary thing. The thought of you being just like everyone else is super fearful at this particular stage of development. So how do you get an expert to take action? You get an expert to take action. They'll do things in the name of being better at their expertise. So someone in the self-centric stage will do something if you give them money. Someone in the group-centric stage will do something if it betters the group. Someone in the skill-centric stage will do something if I will get better at my craft. So let's say for me, my skill is public speaking. If you said, Arel, I'll give you $20 to go to this conference on public speaking, I'm going to be like, you don't have to pay me to go. Like, that's not going to move me. If you say, Arel, the public industry needs you because we need you to show up and be there and be in the audience, I'm like, okay, cool, right? But in the skill-centric stage, if I'm in the skill-centric stage, if you say, oh my gosh, Arel, you have to go to this public speaking seminar because you're going to learn how to have the best openings and capture everyone's attention within the first 5 minutes, sign me up. Sign me up. Because if I can get better at my craft, and my craft is myself, anything you can do to show me to get better at my craft, I want to do it. I want to be involved in it. I want to do it. But like to better the group doesn't really move me. If I got like money out of it, yeah, that's nice, but it's not going to make me show up on a, Saturday when I could be hanging out with my family. But if I get better at my craft, now you got my attention. So let's recap. Skill-centric, expert. They want to be special, critical of others, have a perfectionist, sometimes an air of superiority because they criticize others. Their skills or they're good at their craft. Their fear is losing their specialness. They're driven by comparing and perfecting. They don't want to be cookie cutter. And they do things in the name of being better at their craft. Now, let me pause here for a second. Anybody relate to this stage? Anybody see some things? I think I saw some things in the chat of people being like, oh my gosh, like I'm seeing an aspect of myself. Maybe you see aspects of family members or friends or people you love in this stage. This is a very, very particular stage. And you can spend your whole life in this stage. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. So if you're saying, yes, I'm seeing myself in that now, like this is great. You're becoming aware. So there's something called your center of gravity. I'll get more into this in a little bit, a little detail, but everyone has a center of gravity. You can be in more than one stage at a time, but we all have our center of gravity. What I'm hoping you'll do by the end of this session is find out your center of gravity. Find out where you are, because if you know where you are, now you're going to start understanding what makes you fearful, what makes you upset. You're going to understand what are your characteristic traits and what's important to you. You're going to understand where you will be driven and not driven. You'll understand why you will want to do something and not do something. And you can understand your next opportunity for growth if you desire to vertically grow. If you desire to, you'll have the ability to. Okay. But let's say that you're in the skill-centric stage. You're really good at what you do. But you know what? You're just not getting what you want out of life. If you can be honest with yourself, you feel like there has to be something better. You know what? I'm really good at this, but I thought this would solve all my problems. I thought I would become, happy, and I'm not. So now it's time to move into what's called self-authoring. I'll explain what that means, or achiever. Now, the characteristic traits of this stage is very fascinating, very fascinating. You become obsessed with what makes people tick. You're not interested like the self-centric stage. How do I understand what makes people tick so I can get something from them? You're not interested in like in the group-centric stage. What are the rules? How do people act so I can be part of the group? It's not the skill-centric stage. How do I become better at it? No, it's like, I care about how does Jason think just because it fascinates me. I'm intrigued that other people have a different way of seeing the world than I do, and I want to understand it. Because if I can understand it, I can help that person unlock their potential. It becomes less about me getting something from this person and about how do I understand them so they can get the best for themselves. I become very fascinated and aware of that at this stage. I also start seeing different perspectives for the first time. I start realizing there's more than one way to do something. In the previous stages, it's my way or the highway, right? There's not a truth. There is the truth. At this stage, I start going, you know what? There's really more than one way to do something. Maybe you don't have to like jump in head first and run after a goal. Maybe you can sit down and plan. You know what? Maybe being mean to people helped me get out of a certain situation, but I got to be more respectful of people now. You start realizing that, you know what? Everyone has different perspectives and they're all valid. It's not like one is better than the other. I also start becoming very well aware of timelines much more differently. I start seeing the future and the past very differently. Up until now, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, it conceptually made sense, but you didn't really get it. Out of curiosity, I don't know if anyone's ever seen this before. Has anyone ever seen like this chart that says like, if you save this much money in your 20s, and you saved it for this period of time, you'd have this much money in your 70s. But if you started in your 30s or in your 40s and you saved that exact same amount of money, you would only have this much money. Write I have in the chat if you've seen something like this before. So they go, oh, if you just put this little money away every single month in your 20s, you'd be like this much richer in your 70s. But if you start in your 40s, right? Here's the thing. In your 20s, unless you're really mature and developed, you can't think that far ahead. It's not real. So people tell you that and it goes one in ear, it goes, yeah, that would be really cool, and out the other. But when you're in your later stage of development, you start going, oh yeah, I should start putting some money away for my save. Yeah, I gotta really, because you can understand future way differently. So what happens too is that you go, man, I wish I would have did that when I was younger. But the truth is you didn't have the maturity to be able to actually make that decision if you were in an earlier stage of development when you were younger. You can also see your past much more differently. You look at your past and you go, oh, I understand why I act the way that I act. I can look into my childhood and understand how these experiences shaped my personality and my characteristics. I can understand how these experiences that happened to me affect who I am today. I don't really have the ability to do that so well at earlier stages. I know they're there, but at later stage, at this stage, you become very well aware of it. And at this stage, you become extremely goal-oriented, wildly goal-oriented. You want to achieve. So it's called self-authoring, because at this stage, you want to write your own story. Previously, it was all about the skill. Previously, it was all about the group. Previously, it was just about getting. Now you're like, no, I want to write my story. I want to create a story that's worth living. I want to write it out. I want to self-author my life, and I want to achieve. So you become aware of, like, you want to have the house. And I tell you what, if you're in this stage or you're touching this stage and you want to own a home and you don't own a home, it kills you. Because you got to hit that goal, dang it. So these goals and hitting financial goals and hitting, weight goals and all these kind of goals become a huge, huge, huge thing for you because you become very goal obsessed. Now you have a core driver at this stage that's different than the other ones. It's very, very, very different. At this stage, you care about analyzing and achieving. So at this stage, you want to know, does this give me a 5% boost in productivity if I do it? Okay, then I'll do it. How do you analyze, not just doing stuff? Like up until this stage, you could just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff. But now you start analyzing, is this a good use of my time? Should I be hanging out with these people? No, it's not a good use of my time. Like, no, I don't want to do that. And achieving, getting things in the shape of like achievement and like milestones becomes hugely, hugely important at this stage. Now you develop a very important skill set. And this is a great skill set for all leaders. You develop this skill set of developing people. So now you're in the skill-centric stage, the previous stage, you cared about your own skills developing. In the self-authoring achiever stage, you care about other people developing. So remember how I said you go from self to group, self to group? Self-centric is how do I get ahead? Group-centric is how do I become a part of a group? Skill-centric is how do I build my skills? Self-authoring is how do I build other people's skills? Now, what's fascinating is, like I said, these are predictable and sequential stages, but you're starting to understand how each stage plays and rolls into one another. And if you don't do anything, you'll still go through these stages if you develop through life, but now you can do something about it. Okay. And Sally, I'm going to get into that because that's a really great point you brought up. She says, oh, I'm seeing both of those. I'm going to explain why you can feel that way. I'll explain it a little bit. So what is the biggest fear when we're in this stage? Now, what I'm about to say, if you're not in this stage, it's going to sound like, okay, yeah, that doesn't sound so bad. But if you're in this stage, you'll get this extremely deeply. Your biggest fear is not fulfilling your potential. That scares the bejesus out of you. You start saying, I have all these skills, all these abilities, all these life experiences. Am I doing everything that I could to help others and develop people with what I've been given? Am I like playing too small of a game? Do I need to be at a bigger place? Am I doing it? Am I spinning my wheels? Am I a gerbil in a wheel that's just turning, and I'm missing out on the chance to really fulfill my potential because of my fears of taking action? You think about this, it keeps you up at night. It's a real fear. Now, how does the achiever take action? The achiever takes action, and work is done through the context of creating better results and being more effective. So if you can create better results and be more effective in how you do it, now you're excited. Now you're super driven. Oh my gosh, this is gonna help better, like we've got to do this new candle, like torch passing ceremony, because this is gonna engage the members. The members will be more engaged, and then we'll get more people to join. So we've got to make the change. I'll get excited about that. So it's not about how I get money, like the self-centric stage, or how the group needs me as much, or how I can get better at a particular skill of doing something. It's like, this is gonna better the organization and achieve more of our results that we've said are important to us. So let's go ahead and do it. So let's recap. Self-authoring stage, we have the achiever. They understand others, what makes people tick. They become goal obsessed. You develop skills of developing people. You have a fear of not fulfilling your potential. You're driven by analyzing and achieving. And you want to do things in the name of bettering the group and bettering those, okay? So now I'm seeing some people say, okay, Arel, wait a minute. I feel like I'm in more than one stage. What's that about? I'm so glad you're bringing that up right now, because I want to break that down. There's something called tri-stage movement. Tri is 3, okay? Typically, most people will touch more than one stage at a time. So you can have a little achiever in you, skill-centric, and a little group-centric in you. Some people can be in all 4 stages. However, there's something called your center of gravity, meaning even though you're in one stage, you can touch more than one, but primarily the way you make decisions primarily come from one stage. In cases where you've got to think and act quickly, you'll make your decisions primarily from one stage. If you've got to do something, you can do certain decisions from a self-authoring perspective, certain decisions from a group-centric. Because if you remember, if you're in the self-authoring stage, right? If you're in the self-authoring stage, skill-centric is a part of you, like those nesting dolls. Group-centric is a part of you. Self-centric is a part of you. These stages don't go away. They don't disappear. What happens is you integrate them inside of you. But if I'm in the self-authoring stage, primarily, sometimes I need to tap into my self-centric stage. Does that make sense? So for example, I'm a dad. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. I love them. I'm not in the self-centric stage, right? But if you try to mess with my kids, I can access the self-centric stage real easy. I could defend. If you try to mess with me or my wife, oh my gosh, don't mess with my wife, okay? I'm not saying I agree with what Will Smith did. I'm just saying I understand it. That's all, right? Because I'm super protective and like I will defend my family like tooth and nail. So what happens is even though I'm in a later stage, I can still tap into earlier stages. What happens though is I don't make my primary decisions from a self-centric place anymore. I don't. I make them from a later stage. So you can touch more than one stage at a time. However, typically there is the stage you're in where you make the primary decisions, and then you have what's called your growth edge. Your growth edge is that next stage, okay? So it's very, very fascinating. So if you're noticing, hey, you know what? I'm noticing self-centric is a part of me, group-centric is a part of me, skill-centric is a part of me. What's that about? Well, that's called tri-stage movement. Yes, all 3 of them are part of you, but there's one stage where you're making primary decisions from. You know, I give this example. It's not the best example, but it's still decent enough. Let's say there was a fire. Okay, God forbid, you're in a room and there's a fire. Self-centric person goes, I need to take care of myself. These are people who will trample over other people to get themselves free. I don't care what happens to other people. I've got to take care of myself. In the group-centric stage, if there's a fire, you're thinking, how do I get everyone to get safety? How am I getting everyone safe? How am I making sure single file line, everyone's getting out? How do I take care of these people? If I'm in the skill-centric stage, I'm thinking about how do I use my knowledge and skill sets to put this fire out? If I know how to use a fire extinguisher, I want to use my skill to grab that fire extinguisher and put the fire out, or like block the door, or like wet a towel and put it under the door. Like I actually paid attention in the fire safety video. So I'm going to use my skill to better the situation. The self-authoring or achiever, they're going to ask questions like, how do we make sure this fire never happens again? Why did the fire start in the first place? What happened? How come there wasn't a fire extinguisher close by? And how come people weren't trained so they can put the fire out? How do we put in these safety measures so this problem doesn't happen again? Do you see how all of those are different responses to the same situation? Do you get that? Do me a favor, give me a yes in the chat because I can't see you. I can only hear you through the chat. But do you see it's the same situation, but it's different responses to the same situation? So based on your center of gravity, you will respond differently depending upon which stage you feel a center of gravity with, okay? Now, what's powerful is that you can look at the stage you're in versus looking through it. This is huge. Up until today, thanks to Jason and his incredible kind invitation for me to be with you today and his desire to bring the best possible speakers and content to you, you now have the ability, instead of moving through life, looking through it, you can look at it. And when you look at it, you can decide, is this who I want to be or is it not who I want to be? Up until this moment, it's just who you thought you were. Now you can say, no, it's my stage of development. I can discover my next growth opportunity and I can discover the growth opportunity for those around me. If you start noticing that some people around you are in a certain stage and you want to help them grow, you now understand them and have language and the ability to help them grow. That is super duper exciting, if you ask me, because now instead of the world being a chaotic place that you don't understand, you can start understanding, oh, I'm in the skill-centric stage. This person criticized my report. I'm so angry right now because my skill is me. They criticized the report. I feel like they criticized me, and then you can let it go. Like freaking magic. If you don't believe me, test me on it. It's like freaking magic, because before you're just huffing and puffing and you're like, they criticized my report. I can't, who are they? They don't know all the work that I put in. They don't even do it. I put in 15 hours. That person just shows up. They're not even connected to this project and they're going to criticize me. Who do they think they are? You know, that kind of conversation we have with ourselves. But now you can go, oh, they criticize that. I see my skill as me. So I feel like they criticize me. Did they really criticize me? No. They just criticized the report. The report is not me. Now I can have the opportunity for growth and I can let it go. That's magic, my friends. I'm not joking. This is magic, right? So someone just said this happened in my head about a situation I was struggling with for weeks. Yo, and now you can go, now I get why I'm so upset about it. And now you can choose to be upset or be like, oh, I get it, and let it go. What's fascinating, and I don't know if we have time to go into it because I know we're coming down to the end of our time here together, but how you look at feedback evolves. So what's fascinating is when you get into later stages. So I'll do it real quick, okay? JC, we got time, right? Okay, real quick. In the self-centric stage, if you give me feedback, I see it as an attack. Remember, my core driver is getting and defending. So if you go to anyone, it doesn't matter what you say. They're gonna see your feedback as an attack on them. When you move into the group-centric stage, if I give you feedback or criticism, it is a reminder that I am not following the social norms. So let's say, for example, as an example, so it's more real. I'm just gonna keep using a church example because I think it's a very easy example. If someone says, hey, you know, at our church, we don't do that thing. We don't I don't know. That's probably not a good example because I'm not Christian, so I don't know a good example here. Anyway, let's just say we don't do certain. Oh, okay, perfect example. No, it's not a good example. Oh my gosh, I'm moving it because I didn't plan this, so I didn't think. Okay, I got it. Okay. So you show up to a college event, right? And you sit in the front seat where the president of the school is about to sit. Okay. So I'm trying to make an example that's school related. And someone comes in and goes, no, you can't sit in this seat. That's for the president. In the group-centric stage, you'd be like, I'm such an idiot. Everyone's going to think I'm embarrassed. Everyone knows that no one sits here except the president of the school. I sat in his chair like an idiot. Yes, this chair is better. Why am I such an idiot? Why don't I follow the rules? Everyone's going to think I'm trying to take that person's position. They're going to think poor of me. That's how it's reminding us we're not following social rules and the norms of our group. Okay. In the skill-centric stage, I receive feedback from you only if I think you are my equal or superior. If I don't think you are equal to me in my skill and you give me feedback on my skill, I completely shut you down. I don't even care what you have to say. It's like, it's irrelevant. If you're at my level, then it'll take my interest. And then in the achiever stage, you look forward to feedback. You desire feedback because you realize the only way I can grow is to understand how to get better. The only way I can get better is through feedback. And then as you go into the later stages, feedback becomes a totally different, interesting, fascinating thing, which if we had more time, we'd get into, but we don't. So your relationship to feedback, if someone criticizes you, it's a really great indicator of what stage you're in. Now, everyone likes to think that they like to grow and become better, right? Everyone likes to think that, but next time you get criticized or you get feedback, notice where you go. Because everyone's gonna say, no, I wanna grow and become the best version, until you actually get the criticism, and then like it feels very different. Now, I'm gonna open it up for questions in a little bit. If anyone has questions, just say, I have a question in the chat, and then I'll like reach out to you. So if you start like developing questions about anything we talked about, I'm going to create some space to answer those questions. So just write, I have a question, or type the question into the chat if you prefer. But I want to give you a little bonus here. How the self-centric stage listens. Okay. When you came to this session, I want you to ask yourself, were you listening through the lens of how can I get something out of this to better my own life? Or what's the way I can use this to get ahead or get something from people? If you thought about it that way, it's possible that you could have been, you could be in the self-centric stage. The team player, the very first thing you listen to is, how does this fit into what my group already believes? So, you know, well, you also, by the way, there are some of you, I know who you are. No, I don't know who you are. I shouldn't say I know who you are. I say like you exist. Some of you, the reason you showed up is because you wanted to make sure that like there was no one. Okay, let's just keep it 100. There's a fear that we're going to do these sessions and no one shows up. That's always there, right, Jason? Like it's college. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to do this session, no one grows. There's some of us that showed up because they're like, I don't want to let the group down. I've got to be there because I don't want 5 people to show up when Arel comes on. So I'm going to be there for the betterment of the group. So that's an aspect of like how you listen is, am I saying anything that you disagree with? Because if I say something you disagree with, let's say you're pro-life and I'm pro-choice, and I said I'm pro-choice, you're not going to listen to anything else I have to say. You immediately will shut me down. You see what I'm saying? Because if there's a belief you have and I say something that goes against your belief, you will completely shut me down. Like, for example, real quick, out of curiosity, in the chat, just give me a yes if you genuinely feel like this was actually a helpful presentation, that you got value from, that meant something to you. And you're like, damn, you know what? I wasn't sure if I was going to come, but golly, I'm glad I did, because I genuinely learned something I didn't know, I wasn't around, right? So, okay, I'm seeing the yeses coming. This is great, great, great. Thank you so much. But let me ask you this. So for everyone who said yes, everyone listening who feels like it's a yes, what if I started my presentation with this? I'll be honest with you. I don't like Black people. I don't like brown people. I know that's weird because I'm brown. But what I've learned is that white people are the superior race, okay? Now let's go into my presentation. Would any of you listen to me? Yeah, exactly. I don't believe that, by the way, right? I know this is on recording, so if you just like take that clip, I could get like canceled in like 15 years, right? They'd be like, oh, let's just clip that one thing and we're gonna cancel Arel, right? But what I'm saying is, if I would have said that, I'm pretty sure all of you would have been like, I'm not listening to anything that this guy has to say. I could have given the exact same presentation I just gave you, but you couldn't get past the fact that what I said doesn't already fit into what you believe, right? So that comes from this stage. Now, the other thing that you'll listen to this presentation is, how can I use this information to help others in the group? So you're thinking about how you can help support this person and this person, make the group work better. The expert listens by saying, how can this information help me become better at my craft? So if you came into this particular event with me and you were thinking, how does this help me individually get better at this job or this role? Or is this information directly useful to me? Then you're interested. But if you felt like what I was saying didn't have a direct impact in your craft or role, then you would be less interested. So if you listen this way, it could be in the expert or the expert stage, the skill-centric stage. The achiever listens by saying, How does this information help me move the team forward? How does this help move toward our overall goals? That's how this person listens, okay? So if you heard this and it's like, does this help us move towards our achieved goals, our stated goals? Yes, it does. I'm interested. If it doesn't, waste my time, okay? So I'm gonna ask you to do something, and then I'm gonna open it up for questions. Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. So this information is great and it's useful, it's life-changing, but I want to make sure it stays with you. All of you have been so gracious in saying that this has been helpful. One of the ways I can get better, and by the way, just out of curiosity, one more time, give me a yes if you genuinely feel like this was helpful to you and you're like, dude, just give me a yes one more time. It just helps me. And everyone, do it on your keyboard. It's 3 letters, only if it's true. If you're feeling that, all right, I'm seeing you, Ashanti, I'm seeing you, Junior, I'm seeing you, Ryan. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, everyone. Well, the best way you can pay me back, y'all, the best way you can help me is by taking a few quick moments to fill out a very quick survey, okay? I'm gonna put the link in the chat. If you wanna pull out your phone and scan the QR code, you can scan the QR code, just open up your picture app and it'll scan it and take you to a quick survey. Or you can type into your browser talk.ac/Arel. So you can put that into your browser, or you can click on the link that I put right there. Now, what I did is I created a 1-page summary of everything we just covered. So if you're like, yo, this is super fascinating, there's no way I'm gonna hold this all in my head, I got you. So as a small thank you for taking your time to give me feedback so I can become better, if there's something you found valuable, let me know. If there's something that I could do more of, let me know. If you felt like it was awesome, that's cool too, let me know. But put your feedback into this survey. And then I look at all the responses, I look at my data, it helps me get better. It's probably giving you a little clue of what stage of development I'm in if you're like catching what I'm putting down. But genuinely, I really am interested. So if you really, truly, definitely enjoyed it, please take the survey, and then I'll give you as a thank you at the end. There'll be a big yellow button that says get your freebie. If you click on that, it'll give it to you. If you want to connect with me on Instagram or social media, at the end of the survey, there's links to my social media, whichever one you're on, just click on it. Like if you're on Instagram, click on Instagram, and then please follow me. It would mean so much to me. So take a couple of moments to fill this out. I am on a mission to get my message, to get this message in front of as many people as possible. So if any of you know any other colleges that you think could benefit from this work, I would love to get this in front of them because I'm so passionate about it. So there'll be a question in the survey that will allow you to do just that. So if you work with other groups that could book me in, or if you work with a company and this work would be helpful for them, I'd love to be able to bring it to them. If you know someone, fill it out and we'll do what we can do with that. Do me a favor, when you're done taking the survey, just put done in the chat so I know we can move on, and then we'll go into the question and answer portion, and then I'll answer as many questions as I can for as long as I can until Jason kicks me out, because I know he's like, I gotta eat some of this delicious food that's waiting for me for dinner, and all of y'all got things you got to do, so I want to give you this information to go. So take your time, fill out the survey. When you're done filling it out, just type done into the chat, and then we'll go into the Q&A section. Yeah, Junior, go ahead.
Okay, because I know I wanted to talk about it while it was still relevant.
Please.
The things that you said that obviously you don't actually mean, about
Yes.
like the racial thing.
Yes.
So I think I have a belief that if someone says an opinion, because obviously it's not your opinion, but it could have been someone else's.
Yep.
I say that after someone says that, you should listen to the contents of that conversation. Like you shouldn't block it off at all. I think you should listen to it very closely,
Yep.
because if what they say really doesn't match their opinions, can you really like attack them for that? For
Yeah.
that opinion that they might not actually have, and been put into their head, because
Sure.
that those things can happen.
Yeah.
as well. So, because I know a lot of people in this in this time, I would say modern time, are very quick to take things at face value instead of deeply listening to others, to what people are considered experts say.
That's
And
right.
if they have those very how do I say mildly disturbing opinions, does not mean that the contents of their conversation can't be helpful to you.
Right. So what you're also realizing there, Junior, is the way that you're processing data is not through the group-centric lens when you say stuff like that, right? Because
Yeah.
what you're saying is, I can hear something that is completely against what I might believe, but I'm still curious, right? So again, you might be more in the achiever side. What makes people tick? Why would they say that? Let me understand the context of it. Now, what's going to be fascinating for you, Junior, is because you see the world this way, it's hard for you to be like, why doesn't everyone see it this way? What's up with
Yeah.
that? How come this makes all the sense in the world? But what happens is when we see the world through our particular stage of development and we're unaware that these other stages exist, instead of being like, oh, I get why they can't grasp that yet, they haven't gotten to this stage yet, it becomes what's wrong with people. And then you start losing your faith in humanity and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah, you grow resentful and
exactly.
spiteful, and you become a very unproductive person.
And now you don't have to hold on to that because you can say, no, it makes sense to me why I see it that way. And now I can understand why other people don't. So instead of being like, why do I feel like I'm like the cheese that stands alone? Why do I feel like I'm in, how come I'm the only one that acts like, well, it could be that you're not surrounded by enough folks in that particular stage of development for that part of your life. And it's less about other people not being good or bad. It just means they haven't gotten there yet. So you can give people a little empathy and say they can get there, but it takes time. And by you sharing and doing it, that's how you can be a positive impact. So you raising your hand and sharing it might cause someone in here to go, man, Junior's got a good point. And then you help aid in their vertical development. Do you see what I'm saying? This is
Yes.
vertical growth, not horizontal growth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Questions. We got a couple moments here. If anyone has any specific questions, if not, like there's a summary at the end that goes more into depth and covers some things that we didn't get a chance to cover as well. So it's a nice little reference guide for you. But thank you so much for being here. If no one has any questions, like I won't hold you because I am done. But I will say this as we get to the end of our time here. Do not use this information to pigeonhole people. Do not use this information to hurt people. Use this information to understand yourself and understand others and have more empathy and care for yourself and care for others. So I'm so grateful to do this. Abby, did you have a question? I think I saw your hand go up and I wasn't sure if that was an accident.
Oh, it was an accident.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I felt like you gave me a virtual high five, so thank you so much.
No problem.
If any of y'all have any questions, I'm the only Arel Moodie in the world. It's super easy to find me. So you can click on my social media links and send me some messages and DM. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you so much to Jason for allowing me to be part of the Hostess family. I appreciate every single one of you. Can we real quick do a photo before we get out? Like if you could turn your cameras on real quick, can we do like if we were in person, Jason knows I do this. I like to do group photos, but we in the virtual world. If you don't want to turn your camera on because you like, I ain't do my hair, I ain't know I was gonna be on camera, I'm still wearing my PJs from this morning, I don't want to. I won't be mad at you. I totally get how that goes. So, oh, look at the little lip found. Hey, little baby lip found.
I got
Happy birthday, dude. Happy birthday, little dude. You got a legend for a father. You got a legend. All right, who's turning their camera on? If you gotta like put some lipstick on or smooth out your hair, feel free to do that. But please, if you can, real quick, get yourself into an angle where we could take a photo. It would be great. On the count of 3. Here we go. Hold on. If you can't because you're at work, I don't want you to get fired. Okay. Hold on. Oh, where'd my thing go? Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. 1. Wait. My thing. Hold on. Don't go nowhere, y'all. Hold on, what happened to my, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. My dang presentation went away. There it is. Okay, here we go. Big smiles. 1, 2, 3. 2 fingers because you're cool. I appreciate y'all so much. And honestly, Sully and Jeremy, the fact that y'all are here means the world to me. I appreciate y'all more than you know.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Jason, for always bringing back Arel. You know, I will never miss that. I will follow you to the end of the world.
I appreciate it. Germany, did you have... Oh, we got 2 babies. Maybe I should get my kid. Gavin, come in here. Jeremy, you got a question, bro?
Yes, sir.
What's up?
So what? So basically, Ro, what you're saying to me is that I mean, my question to you is this, Arel.
Yes.
What can I do to not only help myself but to help others to become believers or achievers, depending on their life situations, based on what you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, the biggest thing you can do to help others is help them realize the limitations of the way that they've been doing things. So the question I recommend, if someone says like, yo, it's me versus the world, how's that been working for you? I don't let nobody talk down to me. How's that been working for you? If they go, oh, snap, not good, then they can open up for themselves the opportunity to grow. However, you can't make anyone vertically grow. Like I can't go to any of you right now and say, Sally, here's how you go from skill-centric to achiever. I can't do that. But what I can do, show her the pathway. And then if she wants to step into it, she can. For yourself, it's the same thing. I encourage you to look at your life. And if you notice one of these stages really resonates with you, go, well, am I happy with my life? Well, if I am, then be happy. There's no need to vertically grow. You do not have to vertically grow. But if you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm not getting what I want. Now you know what your next stage is and you know your next opportunity for growth. It takes time though. It doesn't happen quickly. Like vertically growing, it's not like something like, oh, I decided to vertically grow and by next weekend, I'm this new mature version of myself. It takes time, you'll regress. But if you're focused on it, you'll grow. Like there's stages beyond the achiever stage. So if you're in the achiever stage, there are stages beyond that. But you have to say to yourself, I want to go into that. And I won't go into the depths of what's beyond that, but the next stage is called self-questioning, where after you achieve everything you thought you were supposed to achieve, you then question everything that you knew. And it's this very fascinating stage of questioning everything that you hold to be true. And then after that's called self-actualization, where you decide who you are, not because of society or any other influences, you actually decide who you are simply and only because you decided who you are. And there's all depths and complexities to those as well, but that's what happens after the achiever stage, and that's called post-conventional.
Yes, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, here I am. First of all, I want to thank you, Arel, for being with us today. Super inspirational. You know that I love you. As you know, the folks who've come back, people who will watch this, members of our society over the years value you and the impression that you've made on them. So thank you for continuing to be willing to come back after all these years, 14 years of doing this. We appreciate you. We wish you all the blessings in life with your family. Thank you for everything that you share with us as a group, as a community, sharing your community with our community, right? We have folks that you've represented, that you've brought to our attention. And we appreciate you for that. We appreciate you for everything that you do. I appreciate you for everything you do. So thank you for that. I want to thank all of you for being here today. If you didn't get something today, something was missing. Maybe you just were sitting in the wrong place. Maybe you just didn't hear everything. Maybe your internet was spotty. But I felt like I got something that helped me to look at my life a lot differently. And I think that everybody in the room probably should have gotten that as well. And if you didn't, it's recorded. I did the survey, so I got the little synopsis as well. So that's something that you can look at. So all of these things are part of your growth process and your development process. I know in my heart of hearts, and Arel knows this from coming back year after year, you're all working towards being extraordinary individuals. You all have a value system that is driving you forward to make a change in your life, to also make changes in the world around you, to be better for the people who come after you. And so I value you for giving us this time, for sharing these moments with us. And as Arel has said, I work very hard to bring in people who are going to inspire you, to offer you an idea of where you are, of what you can do, of how you can do it better, of how you can make an impact upon the world and society that you live in a positive way. And that's why we're here. So, and I appreciate you being here and sharing this time with us. So again, thank you, Arel. Round of applause for Arel, virtual or otherwise. Sally, good to see you, German. Leighton, Janelli, Kobe, Junior, Unaka, Abi, Ladifa, Saba, Francine, Carmen, Rose, Buampandi, Abigail, Ashanti, Estelle, Annie, and everybody else who's here, Tahina, everybody else who was here throughout the workshop. Thank you for being here. Love you all. I'll see you next week. Last workshop before the spring break, and lots of work to do. So I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. Arel, take care. Love you. I'll see you
bro.
soon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jason.
everybody.
It's been a pleasure.
Happy birthday, Miles.
It's officially April.
April 1st, Miles' birthday. Take care, everybody.
Happy birthday, Miles.
Thank you, Sally.
Bye.
It's been a pleasure,
Bye.
everybody.